Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Shonda Harris, and I'm a business opportunity specialist with the Columbus Small Business Administration, better known as the SBA. Today is Wednesday, April 3rd, and we want to welcome you to today's webinar. We actually have two sessions that we're excited to have you join us. So for those that are logging in and those that are on, we are going to have a power pack session. Our very first presentation is going to be from one of our departments with the state of Ohio, doing business with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. So we're really excited about having that presenter join us today. So just a couple of housekeeping items we're going to also go over. But before we get started, we always like to welcome everyone to this series. And if this is your first time joining us, actually last week, we kicked off this webinar series. This is a part of our Ohio Business Matchmaker webinar series where we have a series of webinars for the entire month leading up to our signature contracting event, the Ohio Business Matchmaker, which will be taking place in Dayton on May 8th and May 9th. And if you want to know what the Ohio Business Matchmaker is, we actually had a webinar last week that kind of gives a great overview and some things that you can do to prepare. But essentially, if you're a small business and you want to do business with government entities, whether federal, state, city, or county, the Ohio Business Matchmaker is the event that you want to attend. Again, it is our signature event that we do. We've been doing for about 15 years, and we're really excited to have so many great organizations join us. Now, this is our webinar series, and I am with the SBA, but we have wonderful partners that we're able to collaborate and actually bring this webinar series and the actual matchmaker to you. So some wonderful partners like the Ohio Department of Development, the Small Business Development Center, the Minority Business Assistance Centers, and our Apex accelerators. So with that, I want to kick it over to our Ohio statewide manager for the Apex accelerators, just to give you a little bit of overview about who they are and what they do. And if you're new to government contracting, it's actually a great resource to help you get acclimated to this event. So with that said, I'm going to introduce Mr. Joey Scott and have him tell us a little bit about who Apex accelerators are. Joey?
Thank you, Shonda. Good afternoon, everyone. Like Shonda said, I'm Joey Scott. I'm the statewide manager for our Ohio Apex Accelerator. And you may know us from our previous name, the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, or PTAC. We changed the name within the last couple of years. But we still have the same great mission, which is to serve Ohio businesses and assist with all things government contracting. So our assistance ranges from one-on-one counseling, which is free and confidential, to group training events like this, both virtual and in person. Again, we exist to help along the entire process of government contracting from start to finish and beyond. So if you are not familiar with us, please reach out to myself or go to our website. I'll put in the chat in a little bit to locate your nearest Apex accelerator. And we have full statewide coverage. So there is an Apex accelerator near you ready to assist. So Shonda, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Thank you, Joey. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. But I believe Joey mentioned, and it's also in the chat, today's session is being recorded. So if you're not able to stay on for the entire presentation, we will post the recording link and actual presentation slides to the Ohio Business Matchmaker website, as well as that information also will be posted on the Apex Accelerator at Ohio University, their website. So actually all of the webinars that we'll be presenting over the month, the ones from last week, all the recordings and all of the presentations will be housed on both of those sites. And for today, for each presentation, we are going to ask because we recognize there are small businesses at different ages and stages on today's webinar. So you may have questions as our presenters are sharing their information about their respective organizations. If so, if you want to type your question in the chat, I'll be monitoring the chat and I can pose the question for whoever's presenting, and then we can address your question as we go along. So again, please utilize the chat. Without further ado, again, if you do have questions as we go along, we understand that government contracting sometimes can be a little daunting and at some point be overwhelming, but you're in good hands. We have Apex accelerators that can address any questions that you may have. All right, without further ado, I do want to introduce our first speaker. It's Mr. Patrick Means, who is the Agency Procurement Officer with the Office of Budget and Finance at the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And we've had the privilege of actually working with Patrick over the last 3 or 4 years, and he's done a lot of webinars. And I got a chance to see him in November, and he's really excited about not only what he does, but really assisting small businesses. When I saw him, he's like, are we going to do these webinars? So we definitely had to make sure that we brought him back to present for today's session. So Patrick, if you're ready, you can take it over from here.
Okay, thank you. Hello, everyone. As introduced, I'm Patrick Means. I'm with the Department of Natural Resources. I'm the Agency Procurement Officer. And I just want to share with you a quick thank you. Ohio DNR, Department of Natural Resources, really are heavily dependent on Ohio small businesses. And we'll get into that a little bit in just a minute when we get into the slide presentation. But I would like to start out with a thank you. Again, DNR is dependent on Ohio small businesses, and we cherish at Natural Resources that relationship we have with Ohio small businesses. It's truly great. It's a benefit to both parties. And so I'll share with you what Ohio Department of Natural Resources is doing to make sure as many opportunities are out for Ohio small businesses. And then some shortcuts and some other things you can do outside of doing bids and things like that. So let me go ahead and share my slide presentation. Can everybody see my presentation? I think you can. So the Department of Natural Resources, we're really a very large agency. If we were, I think we're, the 9th largest state agency. And we buy a lot of things. And so let me give you kind of the structure of the agency before we talk about things we buy. The agency is broken into 11 different divisions. There's Parks and Watercraft, there's Wildlife, Mineral Resources, Geosurvey, Oil and Gas, Water Resources, Information Technology, General Services, Natural Areas and Preserves, and the list goes on. And there are offices within those also. So there's a lot of smaller entities within this large agency that need a lot of things. We buy everything from cars, trucks, dredges to clear out, Ohio's lakes, to we enter into service agreements with companies that can spray aquatic vegetation when, most people have heard of what went on with Indian Lake the past few years. There were so many weeds, they couldn't utilize the lake. Well, we buy those types of services, but we also buy IT products. And we buy a lot of things from a lot of Ohio small businesses. If a park would need like a smaller mower, we do a bid for that. If we need, what would be a good example of anything we need? So we put those out, and we'll talk about how we're buying these things. And so to kind of give you a structure on how things are purchased in at DNR is we use Ohio Buys. But before we do that, I want to talk to you too. Ohio Buys isn't everything about how we purchase at the Department of Natural Resources, but it really is key. So I want to say this several times through my presentation. If you are not registered as a supplier, an active supplier in Ohio Buys, so you can bid, I encourage you, start the process today. Look at bids in Ohio Buys. I can't say it enough. you'll not only get a chance to look at natural resources projects, products, services, bids for all this procurement, but it's for almost all state agencies. And it also involves a lot of government entities. So if you're not in Ohio Buys, please, please, please do that as soon as you can, because until Ohio is getting this information out and getting all of Ohio small businesses registered in Ohio Buys, there's just so many missed opportunities, because you never know when your company might be the solution that a state agency needs. So please, and you'll hear me say it again, hopefully 4 times, register in Ohio Buys. Let's see if we can go to the next slide. Oh, let me see here. Oh, went too far. So what does natural resources buy? We buy everything. You see mowers, motors, life preserve or life jackets, PFDs, personal flotation devices. We buy vehicles, we buy cranes, we buy utility vehicles, we buy ATVs, we buy almost everything. And so I want to share too, it's also not just what natural resources buys, but where we're buying these things. Natural resources has a facility, a park in all 88 counties. So there's not a county in Ohio where DNR doesn't need a product or a service. So keep that in mind too as a small business. If you look at this, look at natural resources, and maybe the county where the product or service is needed is not close to you, but is it possible for your business to make the delivery to that location? Or is the pricing right and, and fits within the business model of your company to where you can provide that service to a park that's not close by? So keep that in mind. I want to share with you a story. There was a state park, and they said there are no small business or MBE paving companies close to this very remote park. And I said, we don't know if the small business community or the MBE community has a solution until we put it in front of all of those small businesses. So we did a bid for this project. The project was to repair a parking lot at Malabar Farms. And so we put out the bid, and the low bid was a small company in Cleveland. And I called them and I said, hey, you bid on this project and you're traveling from Cleveland. And their response was, in their company's business model, it was a good fit. Even though they had to travel, they understood the work, they understood how their company operates. And so I encourage you, look, don't be too localized. If your company can reach out, expand a little bit, there are opportunities. So please keep that in mind, because a lot of parks or a lot of state parks, wildlife areas where work needs to be done or products need to be delivered are kind of remote. With products, it's a little different. You can get those shipped and things of that nature. So keep that in mind. Natural resources is buying, I like to say we buy everything. And so I'll share with you too, in the middle of the screen is something that says eco-friendly. And I want to share with you, we're shifting. So as the Department of Natural Resources, we feel obligated to the people of Ohio, to the state of Ohio, to lead the market, or I shouldn't say lead the market, to lead the state in purchasing eco-friendly products. And you'll see that a lot. So as you're looking at a natural resources bid or something like that, you may see eco-friendly. So it's something to consider. And I see that as a trend happening across state agencies, is eco-friendly, environmentally friendly. We live in an age now of electric cars and hybrid vehicles, and you hear carbon footprint and all these eco-friendly terms. So keep that in mind. If your company can expand into that, might be worth a while or looking into, or, there's nothing that's for 99% of natural resources projects, there's nothing that says you can't partner with someone. So if there's an eco-friendly solution is needed and you can partner with another company, It's very rare that you'll see in a natural resources bid that you can't subcontract or you can't partner. It's just not how we do business. Ultimately, at Natural Resources, we understand that if we put out very good specifications and we award our jobs, we're getting competition, we're getting the best price, but we're also building great business relationships. And that's what that's what we're really interested in. So at the end of this bid process, you bid on these life jackets, you've delivered them, DNR has paid you in less than 30 days, and we'll discuss that in a minute too, paid you in less than 30 days. We want the company that won to say, hey, you know what? If we bid on something for natural resources, it's a good fit for our company, and they're a responsive customer, and they pay on time. That's what we really want. Clear, a clear understanding of the expectation. That's what we're looking for. And so we really want Ohio small businesses to look at natural resources and say, I like doing business with natural resources, good specifications, and they pay on time. So keep that in mind. That's what we're looking for. And now here's my second time saying Ohio buys, Ohio buys, Ohio buys. 90% of what we buy is in Ohio buys. Please register. If you are not registered, I think everybody can do a reaction. If everyone in this meeting, if you have an opportunity to click, I think it's a reaction, and raise your hand. Let me see how many suppliers are in this meeting, if you can, that are registered as active suppliers in Ohio buys. Oh, I see a few. That's good. Thank you for doing that. If you are not registered in Ohio buys, please do so. I think on any given day, there must be 100 bid opportunities. They probably don't all fit your company, but they're there in Ohio buys. And so at Natural Resources, when Ohio buys came along, Natural Resources decided that the best thing to do was to take this electronic platform that can reach out to anybody with internet access and put as many projects, as many products out for bid using this system, so that we can get this out to as many suppliers as possible. It's what we really want to do. So look at Ohio buys and look at what we're doing at DNR. Look at what other state agencies are doing. If you're selling gadgets to Natural Resources and Public Safety or another state agency, you see that they have gadgets, you can take a look at that. Because if you're competitive with Natural Resources, you're probably competitive across state agencies. Something to look at, but keep that in mind. We want you in Ohio buys. That's where we put our bids. It could be anything, we usually shoot for bids at $5,000 and above. And we do that is because there's a payment card option too. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So to kind of give you an idea, in the previous fiscal year, which would have been fiscal year 23 for the state, Natural Resources just in Ohio buys purchased $268 million in products and services. That does not include construction. It doesn't include some capital projects. It's just putting out bids or putting out bids for contracts. So keep that in mind. We spend a lot of money, and the budget for this fiscal year is even greater than fiscal year 23. DNR plans on spending a lot of money, and we want that money to go to Ohio small businesses as much as possible. We can't control who bids, but we want to make sure those products, those services are at least out in front of Ohio small businesses. So please register in Ohio buys. When you go to kind of to give you an idea, so this is from an internal view of what I see in Ohio buys. And I want to kind of give you an idea. Here's another idea of what we're doing. So we needed someone to start up an irrigation system and the water pumps and a kayak pond at the state fair. I'm sure some of you in the audience have been to the state fair and you've been to Natural Resources Park. So we're buying that. We're buying a pump lift station. These are from a little while ago, but a pump lift station. So, that's, a pump lift. It's a product, can be delivered. Amphibian reptile survey. So did a sourcing event for someone to go to this McConnell's training site and to count, monitor, and document amphibians and reptiles. We buy all kinds of things. We buy lighting. We buy plantings. We did a bid. When you go to the fairgrounds and you see the park or the natural resources park within the state fairgrounds, you'll see lots of nice landscaping. We bid that out annually. Every year, that's a new bid. Firewood, four-wheel drive, track hose. We buy so many different things. And look at these areas. Blue Rock State Forest is in the east. The Northwest District, we're talking the Toledo area. Fountain Square is here in central Ohio. District 2 Fish Management is Cincinnati Xenia area. McConnellsville is in the eastern part of the state. We're all over the state. We're buying all kinds of things. I do know to make a list of what we buy, we probably just have to give you, access to look at everything we've ever put in Ohio Buys. We just buy everything. And what we buy, we need all over the state. So again, if you're not registered in Ohio Buys, please do so. It's not very difficult. It may be a little cumbersome at first if you read the materials ahead of time so you're prepared. So it may say you need to provide this document. That's where a lot of suppliers say it takes a little bit of time because they just didn't have their documents and their information. It may ask you for some numbers, some certifications, things like that. So if you have that ready, a lot of suppliers say it's very easy. Others have difficulty, but again, it's there. And I do want to give you a helpful hint really quick about Ohio Buys. So when you're on the supplier portal and you're registering for Ohio Buys, or you're on the supplier portal and you're looking at bids and you're having an issue, there's some support information. It's called support information. And there's an email address and there's a phone number. So if you have a week, you can send an email and you will get a response and you'll get guidance on how to correct your issue. But if you don't have a lot of time or you just really want to move forward, I suggest using the phone number and talking to a person. So many times, Ohio Buys will have someone on the phone who is having difficulties with either submitting a bid or registering. And it really boils down to something very simple. And my favorite example was I got a call from somebody that said they really want to bid on a DNR project, but it wouldn't accept their bid and they didn't know why. Well, I can't go in the system and look at what a bidder's doing. So I got someone who could from Ohio Buys. And this person, they were a little frustrated, but I just kept thinking, we'll get through this. We'll get this person so the help they need to submit their bid. They submitted, we got the person from Ohio Buys on, they looked at it, and the person from Ohio Buys said, you have to put your email address in the email address box. It's got a red star. Once they put in their email address, it's done. They've submitted their bid. So it could be very simple. So just be thorough, look at it. We have suppliers who win bids all the time. And a lot of small businesses whom DNR had never heard of are now winning a lot of bids because they know how to do business, and DNR now has the platform to put our bids out in front of everyone. So again, always, whenever possible, register in Ohio Buys, and whenever possible, look in Ohio Buys because you just don't know what's going to be out there from day to day. So I want to talk about state parks, and I want to use state parks as an example. So I want to preface this with a statement: is at the Department of Natural Resources, we buy about 268 million. We'll probably do more than that this year in Ohio Buys. We buy a lot, but there's something else about Ohio buys, or I'm sorry, there's something else about natural resources I want to share is not everything is purchased in Ohio buys. The Department of Natural Resources, because you're dealing with the public, you're in a remote location, there's little things that are needed. A belt breaks on a mower and it's grass cutting day at a park. Well, they want to do a bid for one belt. So now Natural Resources has 972 staff with a payment card. And that payment card is good to purchases up to $5,000. So if you are in Ohio, let's say you're in this southeast district around Burr Oak, Stroud's Run, if your business is there, or let's say your business is around Alum Creek, and your business is to sell stickers and novelty items and walking sticks to camp stores. I would suggest that as a small business, you go to that local state park, find a way to introduce yourself to either the park manager or the camp store coordinator, and go into that camp store, meet with that person and say, hey, this is who I am. This is my company. This is what we sell. And we think we can be a great business partner. And the reason I'm saying that is, are you going to get a sale the first day? Probably not. But when the park says, wow, we ran out of our really nice custom walking sticks that we sell 5 or 6 of every weekend or every special event we have, we're out. Somebody's going to say, hey, I remember when this company came into our camp store and they said they sell these things. Let's give them a call. And, if it's a few hundred or a few $1,000s, if it's under $5,000, they can do business directly with your company. So it's important, get out to these state parks. If you go to the DNR website, and I would jot this down, it's ohiodnr.gov. On that, you can find, you can go to find a state park, and you can find a state park using a map. This map is a very good map. And I would use this, but find these state parks. You can also find where there are like wildlife headquarters, where there are labs for oil and gas, where there are labs for mineral resources management, all of those things. So all those locations. So go try to get in front of park managers, camp stores, all of that. Don't hesitate. If you sell something that they could use at a park, I'd go there and I'd meet with them just so that they know, because that familiarity, when there's a real need, they'll say, wow, we remember this company stopped by. We can utilize them. So I think it's worth a visit, and for the sake of DNR, it's always worth a visit to a state park. I want to share with you, let me soapbox for just a minute. Ohio is one of 7 states in the country where access to state parks is free. So 43 states charge a fee to go to their state parks, and Ohio does not. And Ohio has excellent state parks. So while you're there, either before you meet with someone to talk about your business, enjoy the park for a minute too, and make sure you're enjoying the parks with your family. So before we leave this map, I want to throw this out too. Don't forget, the eclipse happens on Monday, and you can go to the DNR website, ohiodnr.gov, and you can find out which state parks are going through, the eclipse is going to go over. So that includes Houston Woods, Sycamore, Kaiser Lake, Lake Loramie, Grand Lake St. Mary's, Indian Lake, Delaware, Alum Creek, Madison Lake, Mount Gilead, Malabar, Finley, Mary Jane Thurston, Van Buren, all of the state parks up near Lake Erie, almost all of them. So, this Monday is a very unique opportunity to enjoy a state park in a very unique way with the eclipse. So I had to put that in there because it's really important, and Natural Resources is very proud of the work that's been done by the Division of Parks and Watercraft to have everything ready. So, and now for the business part of that, because they expect and anticipate record crowds at the state parks this weekend and Monday, they'll probably be leaving on Tuesday. or Wednesday, guess what? Everything that the parks had to sell is probably going to be out of stock. Great opportunity to stop in and say, hey, you know, my company can sell you these things, can sell you those things. Something to think about. So do that. And so we talked about getting in front of the park manager, the camp store coordinator. So when you go to the OhioDNR.gov, you do find a park, there's an interactive map and you can select your map. When you select that individual park, in the middle of the page, you're going to find these tabs: activities, natural history and features, and contact and hours. And on that tab, that's the secret. There's the park office number and the manager's name. So we know that at Dave Finley, there's 76 state parks, and I can't remember which park he is with. I think it's Baroque, but so you can call Dave and say, hey, I'm going to be here. I'd like to just chat with you for a couple minutes. But now you know the name because of this website. You can find the phone number. You can also find the name of the park manager. So keep in mind, so the camp store coordinator may say, you know, we only buy things that we need for like the camp store. But if you sell things that aren't for the camp store, but for the park, you know, maintenance, things like that, you can go to, you know, you can get the park manager and say, hey, this is what my company sells. And so, you know, does your maintenance crew need it? Does your watercraft section need it? Something to think about. Because again, if it's purchases under $5,000, they don't have to do a bid in Ohio Buys. They can just buy it directly with their payment card. Something to keep in mind. So now you know how to get a hold of people at the state. So we talked about payment cards. I want to talk about them again. So we talked about 972 payment cards, and I like this slide. It's a big stack of money. So I want to kind of give you an idea. DNR anticipates between 16 million and 17 million in payment card purchases this fiscal year. So last year we just hit 16 million. And this year we know that we'll do more than 16 million. We're thinking more along the lines of like 17 million. That's a lot of money. And that's money for small purchases it's there for the small businesses that can do their homework, find these park managers, let them know the products and services they have. Something to think about. So that's a lot of money, and that's what we like doing at DNR. We have to spend this money because we have to spend it to have beautiful state parks, beautiful wildlife areas. We have to spend this money, and we want to spend this money with Ohio small businesses as much as possible. So please continue working. Don't stop. Ohio DNR really needs Ohio small businesses. And that is all I have. So I have time for a lot of questions. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate. If I don't know the answer, I will get you the answer, but please let me know. Any questions?
Okay, I am monitoring the chat. Thank you so much, Patrick. Are there any questions? It doesn't matter what that may be. I always love to participate in these webinars because we find out so much about our agencies. I don't think I was aware that Ohio is only, I think you said, one of 7 states that has free access to our state parks.
Yeah.
So,
well, Shanda, may I ask a question of the audience?
Absolutely, go ahead.
So using, raising your hand, how many suppliers on this meeting have eco-friendly products or services that use eco-friendly products that DNR may be interested in? You raise your hand or, drop the name of your company in the chat. I would really like to know.
And as you are watching for those hands, I see a couple.
Yeah.
I think since we have some time, not everybody raised their hand, Patrick, and if you don't mind, and I don't know if you can do a little demo to show people where, if they're not registered with Ohio Buys, maybe where they can go to do that. We do have a webinar that can walk them through the specific steps, but maybe you can show the actual website and maybe go over a few things, since we do have some time.
Yeah. So let me share my screen.
Okay.
Can everyone see my screen? It's not showing up as, yeah, I think it's there. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, and I don't know if you can expand it, but yes, we can see it.
Let me try moving it to a, can you still see it?
Yes, but it's on your presentation though, but we can see it.
Okay. So let me see if I can. So this isn't, you can't see this very well on this screen because I can move it back to this screen if it helps. You're on mute.
You
Shane.
can keep it at the other one.
Okay. And so, so this is the Ohio Buys portal, and you can find it just by doing Ohio Buys. And if you want, you can do ohiobuys.ohio.gov. But this is the suppliers portal. And from here, you can scroll down and you can see, you can see, you can log in, or you can create an account, and you can just click this link and you can begin to, it's asking me to log in, and you know what? I'm not going to do that because I can't really log in as a supplier, but you can log in or you can create your account. And this is what I look at. And this is what I really like about Ohio Buys is that when you're on this page, you can go to public solicitation. So you don't even have to be logged in yet. You can just don't have to log in. You don't even create an account, but go look at this today. If you're not using Ohio Buys, go to public solicitations, and here they are. And there's a lot. 7 page, here's page 7, still going on and on and on. Open for bidding. So there's 7 pages that have bids, we call them sourcing events, that are open to the public. They're posted right now for you to participate in. So on this, let's say the contracting entity, you're like, you know what, we as small business, we really want to see what's going on at natural resources. You can just start typing in natural. You can type in DNR and it'll bring you the drop down, do the search. And now you're only looking at natural resources bids in Ohio Buys. So DNR, DNR, DNR. I'm not sure why this one is, this one says DAS Administrative Services, but what it is it's the Office of State Printing is doing this bid on behalf of natural resources. So if you do a natural resources and you see DAS, it's just because a governing agency is doing this bid for us. Well plugging services, lab equipment, utility vehicles, law enforcement drone. We're looking for these types of things. Greenhouse pots. There's lots of bids, lots and lots. So we want you in here. And so say you want to look at this. I won't be able to go into the bid as if somebody who is going to submit a bid, but when you click the pencil, it gives you some more information. So it gives you, they're looking for Chevy Silverado all-weather mats. It says it's canceled and closed, so I probably didn't pick a good one, but this will work. So it tells you the end date is today. It's oil and gas. It says that they're canceling the solicitation due to changes in needs, but it's giving you what it's about. They want accessories for up to 25 new vehicles. So you look at that car mats, this may have been something great for a small company if it wasn't canceled, to say, hey, you know what? Not interested in selling a set of mats for a truck, but 25 sets of mats, that's a lot of money. So look at this. So they give you lots of information. You can submit questions. Somebody said, hey, do the trucks have a center console? And then the answer is yes, they do. So here's something else is so at DNR, we make sure that the specifications are in a separate attachment. And I like that for a couple reasons. It's easy to track, but it's also nice for a supplier to open this document. Maybe they want to print it out. Maybe they want to put it on another screen and then go use the net for other things to go find information, but they can pull this out. So here we got all the specifications for that purchase. So let's go ahead and leave this. Let's go back again. Let's find another one. You know what? Let's find a bid for another agency because we want to make sure Ohio small businesses are bidding on all state agencies, whether it's the EPA, public safety, workers' compensation, aging. I want to make sure, please go out and bid on all these bids that your company meets. If any of the companies here are MBE certified, if it's an MBE certified, MBE set aside bid, you can see that here. And there's projects. So let's look at one for Adjutant General. Let's look for a fun one. Paint sprayers. That sounds good for corrections, paint sprayers. So I'm not from, I don't work for rehab and corrections, but let's take a look at one of their sourcing events. So the item needed for outdoor projects for grounds maintenance. And so it's MBE set aside. So I'm not sure where they're putting their specifications, but let's go back to a DNR one. Vehicle floor mats, we looked at that. Let's look at the law enforcement drone, and it's an underwater drone. Until this went out for bid, I didn't know they had such a thing as an underwater drone. So this is a division at DNR I want to share with you. So here are the specifications, but I want to share with you this division for law enforcement, parks and watercraft. They go a little step above, and I really appreciate this. So for Ohio Buys information, you can click the Ohio Buys information. You can open that. And here's the helpful guide from Ohio Buys. So you don't have to go looking for it online. At Natural Resources, the Division of Parks and Watercraft is giving you that information up front as you're looking at the bids. If you go, you know what, I'm a new supplier and I really want to bid on this underwater drone, your information is here. And then, I think I just stopped sharing my screen. Let me go. Sorry about that, everyone. Let me go back to where we were.
No, and as you're doing that, we do have a question.
Sure.
Patrick, as you're navigating, logging back in, Adam Wilson has asked, is there any advantage if someone has the MBE Minority Business Enterprise certification and can bid on a project that's not an MBE set aside?
So if you're certified MBE, yes, please bid on any open market bids you feel your company can provide the product. So MBE set aside is a program that requires state agencies to do approximately 15% of their purchases as MBE set aside, which means it's set aside from certified MBE businesses only. But if your company is MBE certified and you see an open market bid that's not marked MBE and you feel you're competitive, go do that. So I'd like to share a quick story with you. I've watched the MBE program for, I don't know, like 20 some years. And it's so common. I'll watch an MBE company use the MBE set aside bids and they'll win state work and they'll build their company. And then I watch those same companies start winning open market bids. So I see the MBE program working. It's allowing these small companies, it's giving them an opportunity to grow and then become competitive in the open market. So they're now competitive against all markets. So it's a good program. It works. And so, yes, if you're a certified MBE and you want to bid on open market, please do so. And then we'll go back to Accessing Ohio buys. So we're back here, back to public solicitations. Are there any other questions about Ohio buys and how to use Ohio buys? Again, please, if you are not registered in Ohio buys, please do it. Start today. Look at all these opportunities you have to bid on all these projects. Open for bidding, open for bidding, open for bidding. This is page 3, and there's probably 25 on a page. So yes, please. Magnetic strips, magnetic tape, art design or graphics, inventory management software. It's really all here. Golf carts. That sounds like fun. So please register in Ohio buys. I'll stop sharing there. Are there any other questions? And I just want to say this one more time. Natural resources, we're in all 88 counties. We're in some very remote locations, and we really are heavily dependent on Ohio small businesses. So thank you for being an Ohio small business. And please consider being a business partner with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. We really need your assistance. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you so much, Patrick. And as we're just kind of wrapping up, if there are any additional questions, you can put those in the chat. But again, I want to definitely thank Patrick Means for being a partner. And as he said, with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, they love to support small businesses. And I really can attest to that. As I opened up and said, Patrick was really excited. He came up to me at an event and said, hey, are you guys going to do more webinars? And he wanted to make sure that he could be a part of this series. So, and also with that, the 20 years of experience he has in being at the agency. So if you are a small business and this is your first time participating in these webinars, your first time that you're saying, yes, I want to go to the Ohio Business Matchmaker, just to give you a little backdrop, as we're just filling in a few minutes, these webinars are really designed to give you a little bit of information about the agencies that will be there. So we've devised our tracks of training. We've done it a little different this year because we recognize that small businesses, there are some that are seasoned professionals in doing business with the government, whether federal, state, city, or county. And there are some that are new. By a show of hands, how many are new to doing business with the any government entity? So if you want to, while I'm asking this question, Patrick has so kindly put his contact information in the chat. So I do see some hands. You're new to government contracting. We love it. We have devised 2 tracks of training. So every Wednesday for the next month, and we began our series last week, we have a morning track of training, and we also have an afternoon track of training. And so the first track of training, the morning, is really designed for those that are new to government contracting. You're new to doing business with a state agency, with a federal agency. So these webinars are designed to give you a little overview about what that agency is, who they are, what they do, how they buy, how they procure their goods and services. And then also it gives you an opportunity to find out about how to market to them, how to put together your capability statement, your one-page marketing tool that you'll use to market to these agencies. So you can take advantage of those 2 tracks of training so that you can learn over this next month, as well as working with your Apex Accelerator counselor if you have questions, so that you can be prepared for the actual matchmaker, which the matchmaker will be an opportunity for you to sit down in front of someone like Patrick or someone that buys on behalf of Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and you can pitch your company's capabilities, your goods, your services, what you're able to provide. And then if there's a good match, that agency may follow up with you. And as you can see with Ohio Department of Natural Resources, just a ton of different openings and bids that are available. So again, take advantage of following up with Patrick if you feel that Ohio Department of Natural Resources is a good fit. And it may not be today, but continue to look at their website. You may not be ready to sell to them today, but continue to look at their website, continue to work with your Apex counselor or other resources, Minority Business Assistance Center, Small Business Development Center, so that you can be procurement ready and sell your goods and services as a small business with that agency. So again, we want to thank Patrick. And with these webinars, we start off with a state agency. Now we are going to transition and doing business with a federal agency. So those that are on here, if you're a little bit more seasoned, or if you've already done business with a state agency, you've done business with Department of Natural Resources, and you say, hey, I want to take it to the next level. I want to do business with a federal agency. So we do have the Ohio Department, the Ohio Department of EPA, who is with us, and they are going to share. We have Miss Noelle Mills, and I'm also excited to work with Noelle. We've been working with her for a few years now, and I believe she also has a passion of working with small businesses, as she approached us to say, hey, we've developed some new trainings that we'd like to really put out so that small businesses can get acclimated on how to do business with us. So this is the federal department of the EPA, not the state, that is going to be presenting. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Noelle and her team so that you can learn how to do business with the U.S. Department of the EPA.
Thanks, Shonda. Good afternoon, and thank you so much to SBA and Apex Accelerators for inviting us to present today, and for all of our participants for tuning in. My name is Noelle Mills. I'm the Division Director at the Cincinnati Acquisition Division in the Office of Acquisition Solutions within the U.S. EPA. I'm joined here today by a number of my EPA colleagues who'll be introducing themselves as we transition the presentation. We are all really excited to share this session with you today on doing business with the EPA, which is a compilation of 3 modules in our agency's EPA vendor learning curriculum. So first today, we're going to overview and share some high-level information about the agency, how we're organized, and how we buy, as well as share some resources and helpful websites and links. Then we're going to transition into a more focused look at our EPA acquisition forecast database, which is a great resource to utilize to search for and follow upcoming requirements looking out the next 3 years. Then we're going to cover how to decode SAM.gov and find those opportunities you're interested in following from our EPA forecast on SAM.gov. You're welcome to drop comments in the chat box throughout the presentation, or we'll have some time at the end to be able to answer any questions that you may have. Next slide. So this slide shares our mission. Our mission is to protect the human health and the environment. From this slide, you can also see our 10 regional offices. So from the map, you can see the states and territories that each of the regions includes. There are 9 offices that have their own procurement shop within the regions. So each of those regional offices has a contracting organization that procures requirements for the region. The one exception being Region 10 is serviced by Region 7. So there are going to be a number of different regional requirements supported within those regional offices. The next slide covers our national program offices. So the first slide was our regional. This is our national program offices. Each of these 13 program offices has its own unique core mission in support of protecting human health and the environment. And each of the organization's missions does play into how we categorize the work and which buying office is responsible and where the work that you might be doing would fall under. So I am going to share a little bit about each office's mission, again, to help for that alignment. So for the Office of Administrator, they provide the executive and logistical support for the EPA administrator. They support the leadership of EPA's programs and activities to protect human health and the environment. We have the Office of Air and Radiation. They develop national programs, policies, and regulations for controlling air pollution and radiation exposure. So they're going to be concerned with things like pollution prevention and energy efficiency, indoor and outdoor air quality, industrial air pollution, pollution from vehicles and engines, radon, acid rain, ozone depletion, climate change, and radiation protection. The Office of the Chief Financial Officer formulates and manages EPA's annual budget and performance plan, coordinates EPA's strategic planning efforts, and develops EPA's annual reports. We have the Office of, sorry, I just lost the slide. The Office of Chemical Safety and Pollution Prevention. And they are going to protect human health and the environment from potential risks from pesticides and toxic chemicals. We have the Office of Enforcement and Compliance Assurance. They go after pollution problems that impact American communities through vigorous civil and criminal enforcement. OECA works with EPA regional offices and in partnership with state and tribal governments and other federal agencies to enforce the nation's environmental laws. We have the Office of General Counsel. They're the chief legal advisor to EPA. We are the federal agency with primary responsibility for implementing the nation's environmental laws. We have the Office of the Inspector General, conducts independent audits, evaluations, and investigations, makes evidence-based recommendations to promote economy, efficiency, and effectiveness, and prevents and detects fraud, waste, and abuse. We have the Office of International and Tribal Affairs. They lead EPA's international and tribal engagements, working across EPA's programs and regions to develop and implement policy and programs that protect U.S. public health and the environment. They work with other federal agencies and international organizations and individual countries to address environmental challenges and advance U.S. foreign policy objectives. We have the Office of Land and Emergency Management. They provide policy guidance and direction for the agency's emergency response and waste programs. They develop guidelines for the land disposal of hazardous waste and underground storage tanks, provide grants, technical assistance, and education and outreach to all levels of government to establish safe waste management practices, respond to abandoned and active hazardous waste sites, as well as accidental chemical releases, and encourage innovative technologies to address contaminated soil and groundwater. We have the Office of Mission Support, leads the agency's core mission support functions, including protection of EPA's facilities and other critical assets nationwide. It includes acquisition activities, so that's where the Office of Acquisition falls under, grants management, human capital, IT, and information management activities. The Office of Water ensures drinking water is safe and restores and maintains oceans, wetlands, and their aquatic ecosystems to protect human health, support economic and recreational activities, and provide healthy habitat for fish, plants, and wildlife. OW provides guidance, specific scientific methods, and data collection requirements, performs oversight and facilitates communication among those involved. We have the Office of Research and Development. They conduct the research for EPA that provides the foundation for credible decision-making to safeguard human health and ecosystems from environmental pollutants. We have the Office of Environmental Justice and External Civil Rights, supports the agency's mission by providing leadership on EPA's environmental justice and external civil rights priorities. They coordinate implementation of the priorities across the agency's national programs, regions, the administrator's office, and across our partnerships with other federal agencies and co-regulators in state, tribal, local government, and communities. So I know that was a lot, but again, hopefully it helps frame up where the support that the goods and services that you provide may fall within our structure of our national program offices. So the next slide then shows how those talks about the buying offices, and I'll talk about how those align with those different program offices. So the Office of Acquisition Solutions is the national program manager for EPA acquisitions. Our mission is to protect human health and the environment by collaborating with our business partners to achieve mission critical acquisition solutions. We have approximately 200 acquisition professionals across the 3 buying offices you see on the slide, as well as our policy office, partnership office, and immediate office that support this mission. Those 3 buying offices you see on the chart support the 13 national program offices previously discussed. So we've got CAD, Cincinnati Acquisition Division. Cincinnati provides mission support for the majority of the EPA program offices, procures on-site facility support, so janitorial, O&M, construction, architect, engineer, as well as furniture. One question we get a lot is about our geographical location. So we are geographically located in Cincinnati, but we support the national program offices. So it's not just limited, for example, to the lab that's located in Cincinnati, where we also sit. The next office, the headquarters acquisition division. So you'll be hearing from my colleague, Scott Tharp, a little bit later in the presentation. He is the division director there. They handle professional services. So administrative support, publication support, financial or business consulting, marketing services, et cetera. Lab and testing equipment, equipment maintenance, lab gases, as well as mission support for the administrator's office, OLEM, OEJ, ECR, and 2 offices in OAR, those program offices I was just speaking on the previous slide. And then we have the IT acquisition. And after I conclude, I'll be turning it over to my colleague, Rodney Darrell Jones, who's the director of that office. They handle everything IT. So software subscriptions, IT hardware infrastructure, IT mission support services, anything IT is going to go through our IT acquisition division. Next slide. So this next slide illustrates how broad of a reach the federal government and the EPA have. We are the world's largest buyer. You can see that last year, the federal government surpassed $759 billion as a buyer. And of that, EPA spent over $1.8 billion on products and services in 2023. So now that we've oriented you to the agency, how we're structured, how our buying is organized, I'm going to turn it over to Rodney Darrell Jones, the division director at ITAD, who's going to share more with you about how to position yourself to obtain government contracts and where to find those EPA contract opportunities.
Yeah, thanks, Noelle, and good afternoon, everyone. Kind of want to go over as to what you need to get started. Let me go to the next slide, please. You know, government contracting, it could be, somewhat challenging if you have not actually been used to it. So I kind of want to go over 3 steps on how to go ahead and get started with that. But what you need to get started, the very first thing is you need to register into SAM, Systems for Award Management. If you go to sam.gov, and basically there, it will kind of walk you through how to go ahead and get registered. One of the key things that you will need is going to be unique entity ID. It's very important that you do that. And then, of course, once you do get registered, you want to go in and also verify. And so there's actually a link in the presentation where you can actually go through and make sure that you're assigned and registered properly. One of the key things is based on our FAR, at the time of, submission of a quotation or a proposal, you should be registered in a Systems Award Management. And that's a very important, very first step that you need to do. Next slide, please. And step number 2, and this is where the SBA, really kind of identifies how you are a small business and basically, what area so far as product or service that you qualify as a small business. The North American Industry Classification System, we just refer to it as NAICS. You're actually going to be classified based on your product or service that you provide. And what they actually will use is your 3 years of gross average revenue for some of the NAICS, and some of the NAICS will be based on the number of employees that you have. And it's based on the number of full-time equivalents for that annual year. So it's very important that when you basically take a look at the skills that you offer, that you align yourself with appropriate NAICS codes. And then also you can get more information there as to the website that's managed by the U.S. Bureau of Census. Next slide, please. And on the size standards, it's very important that you actually are classified with this, and the size standard tool that's available is very helpful. You basically could be identified and registered under a number of NAICS codes. However, when a requirement from the government is released, it will specifically identify which NAICS code that acquisition is being procured under. So that would be the prevailing NAICS code that you would use, and you would utilize the size standard there to make sure, the size standard tool to make sure that you qualify as a small business under that particular requirement. And once again, you basically can be registered in a number of NAICS codes, but in order to kind of really channel your expertise, make sure that your core business are specifically identified with the NAICS codes that you are registered. Next slide, please. And this is a number of very valuable websites to where you can find contracts, of course, sam.gov. And then, of course, a lot of contracts that we actually purchase with the US EPA as well as the government at large. We utilize GSA, the General Services Administration. We utilize a lot of their schedules. And so you can actually go there to this information to how to get registered and how to actually obtain a GSA contract. A lot of times those are some of the expedient ways that we actually purchase our goods and services from the government-wide acquisition contracts. And also subcontract opportunities. Sometimes a good way to get into federal contracting is not to come in as a prime contractor, but it's to actually get in as a subcontractor. So there's some great information there as to, how to get in as the subcontractor, how to identify awards, basically the prime contract awards where your company would fit in. So it's very important to take a look at that, because those are great opportunities to get good experience. A lot of times, larger companies, of course, they're required to actually provide subcontract opportunities if their contract is over a certain dollar amount. And then also, if you have a very good company that you operate in a niche business where you're doing specialty work, a lot of times large companies will reach out, and not to replicate or add, additional resources to their company, they will subcontract those opportunities out. So once again, subcontracting is a great way to actually get into federal contracting. Next slide, please. And these are some EPA specific resources, like so far as vendor registration with the EPA. I'm not going to go into detail anything about the EPA acquisition forecast database. That will come a little later. Also, our active contract lists. Once again, we cannot do, as government officials, we cannot direct subcontracting. So we can't tell a prime contractor that they have to go to a specific subcontractor. But however, you can actually go out there and you can contact the primes directly if it's something that you feel would be within the purview of your entity. contact those prime contractors to seek opportunities. And also you want to register on, and what Fed Connect is, it's a secure portal that is actually provides two-way communication in the pre-award as well as the post-award phase. You know, so registering on Fed Connect is, you know, highly encouraged if you're going to do business with the EPA. And once again, the GSA Advantage and as well as GSA eBuy, those are expedient ways where contracting can be done. So you want to make sure that you actually make yourself available at as many of the portals and the services that are available, so you can be well exposed for opportunities. Next slide, please. And once again, and speaking of the NAICS codes, these NAICS codes listed are the largest NAICS codes by dollars that the EPA purchases. You know, engineering services, computer systems design, you know, environmental consulting, facility support, and remediation. You know, basically all government expenditures are tracked, you know, through our federal procurement data system. And so these are pretty accurate as to how the NAICS were awarded. And these are the largest areas of expenditure for the US EPA. And at this time, I want to go ahead and turn it over to Scott Thorpe, the Director of the Headquarters Acquisition Division.
All right, thank you, Rodney. All right, next slide, please. We're going to talk about learning about what resources are available to you and what identities are available in those resources. The first one that you'll see up there is contracting with EPA. We actually give you the link to the website itself, but this is where you'll learn about EPA, the types of things that we buy, and learn a little bit more about specifically, you know, talking about our acquisition solutions office, the regulations that we utilize in order to purchase products and services throughout the agency. In addition, we have a special projects that we've been working on for at least the past year regarding, it's called Cutting Edge Contracting Innovation Lab, otherwise known as CECL. We are trying to do some innovative work regarding how we're buying products and services and the different types of contracts that we do. An example of that would be conducting an anonymous technical evaluation or something called an on-the-spot consensus. Those are just two examples of those types of contracts, methods that we have utilized. Next on the list is Apex Accelerators. This is formally notified as PTAX. They provide sources to you. They try to assist you in, you know, by providing training, one-on-one experience. They also have other events similar to this, and they also have workshops and matchmaking. And they also have one-on-one counseling, and they provide some assistance with getting registered in SAM if you need that. The last one on the screen is called SCORE. This again is all about mentoring and education for small businesses. Specifically, they provide information in webinars. They also do local workshops. So if you have an interest in attending any of those workshops, you can look and see where they may be available. In addition, they provide mentoring to small businesses. Next slide, please. So let's talk about some of the data that is available to you. This is sam.gov. We've talked about that a couple of times. This is a repository where you can find all kinds of information regarding government contracts. You can actually download and run reports. You can look at the federal procurement data system. That's where the report, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But you can get, you know, if there's a contract opportunities that are available, contract data on contracts that have been awarded, entity information regarding your own registration, and, you know, the information that you put into your registration. But sam.gov is a very useful tool and provides a lot of information. We've actually provided a how to learn about sam.gov as another link on here. Next one on the list is called Government Spending Tracker. It is just what it says. It tells you about the type of spending that is being done by federal government agencies, specifically talking about the amount of money that's being spent in local communities, spending over time of how many years we've spent on, for example, IT services, whatever it may be. We also break it down by industry and also by the specific product or service that is being provided. All of that information is available to you. We also gave you tutorial videos here, so you can look and see how do you utilize government spending. Last I'm going to talk about is Federal Procurement Data System. Again, FPDS is what that acronym is. It's a repository for all federal contracts information. So it is when a contract is awarded, it gets uploaded into FPDS with all the pertinent details. And again, we talked about the reporting mechanism that you can get out of SAM. That SAM takes from the information that's provided in FPDS. So that is a good location that you can also find detailed information. And in addition, we also provided a webinar on how do you use FPDS or Federal Procurement Data System. Next slide, please. These are some points of contact in the agency, specifically about our Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization Office, also known as OSDBU. This gives you points of contact and the specific areas that they work with contractors on. For example, David Allen, he's responsible for our RRT. So if you have any questions regarding IT and how you get into the business, David Allen is certainly available to assist you. And then we talked about Diana Price. She's professional services and Superfund remediation. We talked about previously about types of remediation that is done by the agency. She could be a good resource for you to reach out to if you had any questions about that. Next slide, please. In addition to our points of contact, here are the regional small business coordinators. So if you had any questions regarding small business opportunities in a specific region, and we provided that information previously on the different regions and where they're located and things of that nature. But this provides you their names, points of contact, and how to get hold of them if you have any questions regarding small businesses and small business opportunities specifically. I am now going to turn it over to Tommy Madison, who is our agency competition advocate.
Thanks so much, Scott. Appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. As Scott said, my name is Tommy Madison. I'm the agency advocate for competition. I'm also the agency's protest control officer and one of the leads as it relates to our forecast database. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about the EPA acquisition forecast and what it is and how you use it. So next slide, please. Forecasting is an annual requirement that the agency undergoes each and every year, where we have our program offices and regions forecast the next 3 fiscal years worth of procurements across the agency. And that is attributable to not only our national program offices, the 13 program offices that was discussed earlier, but also across our 10 regions as well. So what forecasting does is it identifies all of the program offices' upcoming acquisitions that are above the simplified acquisition threshold, which is currently at $250,000. Now, I will say that although all requirements above the SAT are required to be included on our forecast database, we strongly encourage all of our program offices and regions to include all procurements in the database. That way we have transparency about everything that the agency is looking to do over the next 3 years. So we don't want to limit it to just those things over 250,000. So we encourage that the program offices and regions include all of their procurements on that database. It gives the public more insight into what we're doing. It also gives the agency more transparency as we strive to be more equitable in our award system and how we are processing our procurements. So the acquisition forecast provides a landscape for potential procurements over the next 3 fiscal years, of course. So It provides a snapshot of what we're doing as an agency over those next few years. It also gives us the ability to anticipate procurement timelines based upon projected solicitation release dates. So the database includes forecasted years that solicitations are going to hit the street. It also includes which quarter we anticipate those solicitations being posted. So vendors and the public and those who want to do business with the agency have an opportunity to plan for that in their budgets and in their timelines for putting their bids and proposals together. It also provides assistance with establishing expectations for small business contracting accomplishments. So the agency does have small business goals. We have socioeconomic goals that we're trying to attain. And so our engagement with industry helps us to achieve those goals, and having a forecast in place helps in our planning purposes for that reason as well. Next slide, please. So what is the forecast database and why is it important? So the forecast database is a tool that provides information, of course, on upcoming procurement opportunities in real time. This database is updated every night at midnight. So as changes are made to the records and procurements that are in the system, those changes can be updated so that we are providing the most current information available. It also serves, the forecast database serves as an important primary source of information for companies that are looking to do business with the agency. I can tell you that in all of our outreach sessions, in every event that I've been a part of in my time as a competition advocate, we always point vendors and companies and businesses to the database so that they can take a look for themselves and see how to search for opportunities and how to search for different ways of doing business and partnering with the agency. So it's a primary source of information. We're always sharing this website and this link, and you'll get a chance to see a snapshot of that in a little bit later in the presentation. But the database also assists the agency with planning small business outreach activities. So when we go through our calendar and we're planning outreach events and we're planning learning sessions, we're planning listening sessions, where we can actively engage the public and engage our vendors with partnering with us, the database helps us to plan those things out because we have forecasted information that we can share with the public, that we can share with companies that we meet so that they can more effectively plan on how to partner with us. And then this database actually includes not only current opportunities that are coming up over the next 3 years, but there are sections of the database that include both awarded contracts, contracts that have already been awarded, and information on cancel procurements as well. So let me tell you why cancel procurements are maybe of importance to the vendors and to the public community. If there's a procurement that's been canceled, sometimes a program office at that specific time, they've keyed in a record or they're projecting a procurement to go forward, but for whatever reason, maybe they changed their mind. Maybe the funding didn't go through. Maybe the office decided to go in a different direction, but they have this record out there already, so they'll cancel it. And oftentimes a cancel procurement will become a current opportunity at some point in the future. So contractors and vendors and companies who want to do business with us, they can look in that section of the website to see what's been canceled, and that may potentially turn into a future opportunity down the road. So that's another section of the database that is part of the acquisition forecast as well. And so at this point, I'm going to turn the presentation over to Ross Gillingham, who is going to kind of give us a snapshot of what the database looks like in the presentation. So Ross?
Yes, thank you, Tommy. As Tommy said, my name is Ross Gillingham. I'm a contract specialist in Cincinnati on the Office of Research and Development pre-award team. I will now present the next few slides, starting with this one, which answers the question, where is the acquisition forecast located? Additionally, I will present an overview of the acquisition forecast database homepage, as well as the database itself. And finally, I will be sharing an example search in the database. So where is the acquisition forecast located? You will want to go to epa.gov/contracts. On the site, you will find information on doing business with EPA, including important elements of the contracting process, points of contact, and information on the regulations and policies applicable to EPA acquisitions and frequently asked questions. After heading to epa.gov/contracts, click the first button under the Opportunities subheader. There you will see the landing page for the acquisition forecast as shown on the next slide. The forecast reiterates the purpose of the database, stating that as part of EPA's initiative to encourage competition, the database was developed to allow companies to spend more time bidding and less time searching for procurement opportunities. There are also some important disclosures about the information and records contained in the database, including the information in the database is based on the best information available at the time of the posting and is intended for planning purposes only. It does not constitute a commitment by EPA to buy described supplies and services. Additionally, the user is asked to note that some records contain the statement of work SOW from the current contract. This information should not be relied upon for proposal preparation. Contractors are cautioned to prepare their proposal in accordance with the SOW in the solicitation when it is released. Further, there is a point of contact identified next to each requirement that is familiar with that requirement and can answer each specific question you may have. Now you will see current opportunities, awarded contracts, and canceled procurements. On the next slide, we will look more in depth at the current opportunities. Under current opportunities, users have the following options: by record number, by end user, AA ship or region, by procurement office, by dollar range, by NAICS code, by solicitation issue date, and by target award date. As we discussed previously regarding NAICS codes, this is the filter we will be using as demonstrated on the next slide. If you are interested in searching by your firm's primary NAICS code or any other NAICS code, you may enter it in the search field and click on Go. It will then pull all current opportunities with that specified NAICS code. You may sort, and further filter, as well as download the file. Also see the note. The note advises, click on the column heading to sort or filter data. To download the file, use the Actions button below and select Download. Next slide. What if I have a question about a specific forecasted opportunity? There's a point of contact identified next to each requirement. Please note the variety of columns, including procurement office, description, procurement method, etc., which you can use to sort the results. Forecasts updating is a quarterly requirement, but may also occur more frequently. I will now turn the presentation over to Angela Lauer, Branch Manager in Cincinnati for Water, Tribal, and Air Mission Support for Module 3, Decoding SAM.
Thank you, Ross, for that introduction. I will be discussing, the information that we received from us about SAM.gov, the information with the acquisition forecast, and how to sort of connect the two. So let's get started. This here is a screenshot of a opportunity posted to SAM.gov for a requirement that is currently in my branch right now that's active. And so what you will notice is there is the ability to follow certain contract opportunities in SAM.gov. However, you do have to be logged in to SAM.gov to do so and have an account with SAM.gov. Not only can you follow contract opportunities, you can follow entity records, exclusions, assistance listings, wage determinations, and more. Of the specific records, there will be a point of contact. If you look at the toolbar on your left or navigation bar on your left, you'll be able to find contact information, much like the EPA Acquisition and Forecast database. If you have any questions, you can reach out to that point of contact listed in the posting on SAM.gov. I want to make sure that point out that the EPA Acquisition database and SAM.gov are separate databases. EPA has ownership over the EPA Acquisition Forecast database. SAM.gov is maintained by the General Services Administration, and so they do not talk to each other. Unfortunately, that is not a functionality that we have, but there's ways to search for records that are included in the EPA acquisition database on sam.gov. So you'll want to, things that you've heard already today, NAICS codes, titles, information of that nature is something that you can do to search for opportunities under sam.gov. If you go to sam.gov, there is a great help area, Q&A, question and answer area that will walk you through searching on sam.gov. You'll have links to published webinars on YouTube that will go screen by screen and instruct you on how to do an advanced search in sam.gov. So it can be very helpful to you to look for those help features in sam.gov to further either filter down how you would want to search for different opportunities. sam.gov not only will have the Environmental Protection Agency opportunities posted, it'll have every federal agency posting. So there is a ton of opportunities out there for acquisitions, for requirements. So it is a sort of the mecca of databases for the federal government in doing business with the federal government. Another screenshot of what would be posted onto sam.gov just further shows some additional information, provides the classification, again, references that NAICS code, provides the product service code, gives a short description of the effort. And then what you will see is a link to FedConnect. So we did talk about FedConnect also. Again, be mindful, registration in FedConnect, registration in sam.gov are all free to the entity. But these are databases that we would highly recommend you have an account for, because you're going to be able to see all of those opportunities posted to sam.gov. And then FedConnect actually interacts with our contracts writing system. So we post our solicitations, our efforts also on FedConnect. And it's a way that we can communicate with vendors out there, and they can communicate with us. They can submit responses to requirements. So again, it's very important. Those two databases, sam.gov and FedConnect, to be a registered user on those. And then the next slide will show you what a posting on FedConnect would look like. So again, this reference number is the actual solicitation number that we generate in our contracts writing system. And that's how you would search for things that are posted to FedConnect and sam.gov. However, that is different than what is utilized in the EPA acquisition forecast database. They have a record ID number. So there's no way, if you would try to search for the record ID number from the EPA forecast database on sam.gov or FedConnect, that you would find the actual requirement. So you do have to do some searching in the sense of either NAICS code or title of the requirement to find it on sam.gov or FedConnect. So just want you to be mindful of that. And with that, that concludes our webinar for today. There are everyone that presented during this doing business with EPA discussion is posted here. Our contact information, if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to any one of us, and we can, point you in the right direction if we don't know the answer, or give you, additional information that would help you with doing business with the EPA. Really appreciate your attention today, and now can open it to questions if anyone has any.
Trying to see. Thank you, Noel, and your team. It's great to see so many different ones presenting. If there are any questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. Please go ahead and put in the chat. Maybe while we're waiting, I think it is great to see. I don't think I've ever seen an agency that has their forecasts predicted out for 3 years. So that's really great to see that the EPA has that. And just also encouraging to see how much they spent, $1.8 billion. So as a small business, always encouraging for you to know that their agency has a high threshold of spending on goods and services. So whatever it is that you may provide, a good or a service, can really, you don't know how to look for those opportunities, you can work with your Apex Accelerator to see if there's an alignment with that. So there are no questions, All right. Well, if we don't have any questions, again, definitely want to thank Noelle and her team. It was good to see. I think I wrote down everybody's name: Noelle, Scott, Ross, Tommy, Rodney, Angela. Thank you so much for presenting. It's always great to find out things about federal agencies, even though I work with firms that are in the 8A program, and I think I have a few firms that have EPA contracts. It's always great learning about new opportunities that your agency has. So if you're a small business and you want to do business with the EPA, again, this is recorded. We will post the link to the recording and the slides on the Ohio Business Matchmaker website. Joey, I'm going to ask if you can put the link to the Ohio Business Matchmaker website in the chat so individuals will have access to that. And so you can go back and revisit this, and then hopefully you will be able to join us. Thank you, Joey, on May 8th and May 9th for the actual Matchmaker event in Dayton. So the Matchmaker is actually 2 days, well, a day and a half. So May 8th, we have a half day of training where we have a couple panel discussions, and then we will have a reception. And then the full day of matchmaking where we will have, I believe EPA has committed, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and other agencies are registering. So we'll have a full day of matchmaking. So what happens is once you register with your NAICS codes, and NAICS codes represent your goods or your service, the agencies will represent what NAICS codes that they are looking to purchase. So there'll be a match and you'll get a list of the agencies that are potential matches for you. And then you'll be able to actually wait in line to meet with that agency representative on May 9th. All right, without further ado, definitely want to again thank Patrick Means from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and Noelle Mills and her entire team from the US EPA for great presentations on how to do business with their respective agencies. Coming up, we do want to thank you for your time today. As I said, we will be hosting webinars all throughout the month of April. And so with that, I don't know if Joey, if you're able to put on the screen the next webinars that we have. Well, I can mention them. I think I have the schedule right here. Next week on April 10th, in the morning, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, understanding federal and state small business certifications. So the state of Ohio, the certifications, and then also the federal certifications that we here at the SBA have. And then in the afternoon at 1 o'clock, we have doing business with the Army Corps of Engineers and doing business with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So you can register for those. And then I think, okay, he has it on the screen. And then the following week, April 17th, you can see those webinars and you can register now. I don't believe the registration for the Matchmaker is open just yet. maybe a few more days, so stay tuned. We will be sending out information about that. Well, we don't want to hold you. Again, want to thank our presenters today, Patrick Means, Noelle from Ohio Department of Natural Resources, Noelle Mills and her team from the US EPA. Thank them for their time and great presentations. Thank you for joining us. We hope that you can join us for one of our webinars throughout the month. And then definitely we hope to see you May 8th and May 9th at the actual Ohio Business Matchmaker in Dayton at the old at the Nutter Center there at Wright State. Thanks so much. Have a great day. And we hope to see you later. Thank you.